All right. Again, thank you everyone for coming. I didn't even introduce myself, but welcome to our Zoomcast. My name is Jacob Mize, and I'm the development director here at Mercy House. When we were talking about having these conversations or creating this like Zoomcast series to cover different topics around homelessness, I was really excited and inspired by what one of our partners over at Eastside Christian Church did, and so I was like, when I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, we gotta have them in the mix. So I'm actually going to pass it over to Erica Flora, who works at Eastside Christian Church, and have her kind of take it away from here. So Erica, if you want to do us a favor and introduce yourself and introduce our two other guests, I'd appreciate it.
Sweet. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Nice to be with you all. Like Jacob said, my name is Erica Flora. I'm the Director of Local Compassion at Eastside. I have the honor and privilege to be able to work with local partners like Mercy House and other service providers in all different areas across different causes. And I'm really excited to be hosting and helping, just honestly learning from the conversation today and chatting with some of my friends. So Damon and Brian. So maybe Damon, do you want to give a quick intro of yourself and then pass it to Brian?
Sure. My name is Damon Lujan, and I live in Santa Ana, and I am an artist and a skateboarder. And I just love painting. I love people. I love Jesus. And that's me, Damon.
All right, sweet. Brian.
My name is Brian Peterson. I'm an artist as well in Santa Ana, California. I run a nonprofit called Faces of Santa Ana, and also a business called Brian Peterson Arts. Do everything from murals to oil paintings to anything artistic. I'm also a husband, father, and lover of the Lord as well.
Sweet. Awesome. Can you guys, and maybe I know you guys work independently and you work together, but can you help paint the picture a little bit, no pun intended, of how your skill set and your passion and what you do, you talked about being artists, how does that tie into the conversation of homelessness?
Yeah, I'll let you jump in, Damon, but I'll just kind of kick it
ahead.
off. It's probably about 3 years ago or so, maybe more now. I had been running this organization called Faces of Santa Ana, painting portraits of my neighbors experiencing homelessness. And I got this call from a guy who's going to be on the call next week, Kyle, and he asked if I would love to paint a mural on a building that he was developing for permanent supportive housing. And at that point, I had never painted a mural before. And Damon and I had been great friends. I'd seen what he was doing at the company, Obey, that he was working on. He'd also helped and installed some murals in the city. And so one day I get this call to do a 180-foot mural that I said yes to, and I never touched a spray can or done a mural. And so my first call was to Damon. I was like, Damon, you gotta first you gotta help me, but you gotta teach me everything you know, sort of thing. And so I'll just leave it off to Damon right now and let him explain more about what we did.
Yeah, so that first one that Brian called me on, like he said, I was already painting murals before that, and I've been spray painting for not too long, maybe 10 years before Brian called me. So I had some experience with spray paint. And I was actually painting a mural in Orange County when he called me, and he came and visited the mural and explained to me what they asked him for. And I said, yeah, we can totally do this. So the next day, Brian was at my house in my backyard, spray painting on the backyard walls, learning everything he could learn. And then then we went to the orchard and checked out the wall and met a bunch of people that were living there and possible people that we were going to paint. And that's how Brian and me started together. Like you said, we do paint separately, but we paint a lot together. And that was the first one of many.
Sweet. And for those of you that don't know, the Orchard was a motel housing conversion that's moved into permanent supportive housing. And from what I understand, guys, the mural that you painted, which kind of set you on this journey of murals, Brian, I want to talk about how Faces of Santa Ana specifically also was birthed, because that's a rad story and ties into all this too. But that mural was really meant to represent members of our homeless community, right? Homeless neighbors, and to bring dignity and to respect them. Can you talk a little bit about kind of these individuals, who they were, and what the purpose was behind that mural?
Yeah, I'll try to paint the picture, so to speak, of what the mural was about. So it was a unit, I think it was 71 hotel rooms converted into permanent supportive housing for the homeless. And CDP reached out and wanted me to paint a mural on here, and they asked me for some concepts. One of the concepts I showed them was, what if we painted the actual people that were rescued from the streets and are now living in their homes? So what if every day, if they came home, they saw themselves dignified, 18 feet tall. So on the wall is mothers, fathers, kids, pets, stories, quotes. We went in and did interviews. We really got to know the people. Damon and I, we both believe that being proximate to any issue, being close to any issue, is like the secret sauce to understanding it and learning to love people in new ways. And so during these interviews, we were just taking notes, we were taking photos, and ultimately the people who now live in the orchard, we call them the designers of the murals, because it's their quotes, it's their faces, it's their stories, it's their pets. Like, we designed a mural for them, but they gave us all the info to put on the wall. So the wall is super bright, super dignified, crazy colorful. It's just an image of hope. It's an image of love. It was truly a labor of love for Damon and I, the 9 days or so we were out there. And then even looking back, you know, some of these people follow us on Facebook, and their profile pictures are of themselves on the mural. And so I think art has a really unique way of just connecting with people's hearts differently than any other service. And we just believe that that's our role here in our city.
Damon, anything you want to add to that before I move on?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, when, like Brian said, when we first went to go meet the people that were living at the orchard, and we got to share with them what our vision was and how we were going to paint their portraits 18 feet tall. When it's like Brian said, it's more than art, you know, because while we're talking to them, while we're interviewing them, while we're asking them all these questions, we're falling in love with these people, you know, and that's a big part of what Brian and I do is to love the people that we're painting for, and to love the people around that we're painting for. And so these people became our family, you know, the ones that are now on the portrait. Brian and I go and visit them maybe like once a month, maybe more sometimes, you know, but we go down there and we check out the mural, and we just hang out back until people start coming out, and we just start hanging out with them. And it just becomes family. Everyone that Brian's painted in the past, every mural that we've gone to and done, they become our family. And yeah, that's the biggest part, is just we love the people that we get to paint. We fall in love with them, and we get to show their story in the paintings.
I love that. And I think it's such a connection point with a population that we know is out there, but so many times people don't know what to do. They don't make contact with eye contact, even the simplest things, right? Bringing dignity and just connecting as humans, and providing hope and love. And just when you look at these murals, and this mural specifically, when you're looking into the eyes of these people, it reminds me, when I see it, how valuable to just learn the stories, slow down, understand who the faces are of these people that we're trying to serve, and that they deserve the best, and to be celebrated and to be cheered on just as much as any of us. So I think what you've done is such a huge piece to that, and represents that in such a cool way. Now, Brian, I know, so you talked about you two getting together. Now, talk a little bit about Faces of Santa Ana for those who don't know about it, and kind of how art connects to improving the story of the individuals you're painting.
Yeah. 6 years ago now, which sounds crazy to say that, I picked up this book called Love Does. If you haven't read the book, I recommend you read it. It's just a book it's about the Lord, but it's also about how to make love practical. How do you make love a verb versus just something that just rolls off your tongue a little too naturally? And so I'm reading this book about loving my neighbor, and I hear these screams from a man experiencing homelessness 6 years ago as I'm reading a book about loving my neighbor. And something happened in my heart where I said, oh my gosh, this guy's my neighbor. And I actually call him the screaming homeless man within my household. And so, convicted, I walked up to my wife and I'm like, we got to get to know this guy. Like, we hear him screaming every night, and we've never stopped to say hello. And so 2 days later, I made a commitment to go look for him, rode my bike around the city, finally found him, and sat down and had this conversation with who I labeled the screaming homeless man. It turns out his name was Matthew. Turned out he was a super kind, gentle soul. Told me his dreams of being a musician. And sitting here in this conversation with him, something from within me just asked him, hey, Matthew, like, can I paint your portrait? It shocked both of us, Erica. It wasn't something I wasn't like looking for my next painting. I hadn't painted in 9 years. And so from within me, my only response to seeing love in my neighbor was to ask him to paint his portrait. That's as plainly as I can describe it. Painted Matthew's portrait, put it online. People started asking, was it for sale? Couldn't understand why anybody would want a portrait of Matthew, the guy who we all drive by every day and ignore. It didn't make sense to me. Ultimately, someone ended up buying this portrait and a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, wow, if I can paint my neighbors, tell their stories, and then maybe use some of the money from the painting sale to help them pursue their dreams or wishes or goals. Matthew ended up recording a whole album. It was his one wish to record an album, and we used the money from his painting to do that. And so long story short, I've painted about 40 paintings. We now have faces of mankind operating in other cities. So we have faces of Anaheim, faces of Detroit, faces of Riverside, soon to be faces of Bakersfield. And there's this movement growing of artists that are saying, oh, I have a gift. I like stories. I want to learn to love my neighbors. Like, how do I jump in? And week by week, I'm getting requests. It's kind of scary, actually, getting requests from artists all over the place. I got a request from Africa the other day, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with all of this happening? But there's a desire for the creatives to do what they were born to do, which is what I believe is to tell the stories of the narrative of the times they live in. And if we can get artists to tell the stories of their cities, I think we're winning together, right? And so that's what Faces of Santa Ana is. We paint the portraits, sell the portraits, use the money to help them, all those great things. But we believe in telling dignified, beautiful stories through our art.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. From Africa, like you followed your prompting. You went outside of your comfort zone with Matthew, doing something you haven't done for 9 years, and now you're seeing the ripple effects of you kind of obeying a call or listening to a nudge internally. And I think we can all resonate with that, right? Like we all, whether we're on the road to discovering what we've been made to do, you are like, I know I've been made to paint. Both of you guys, you're so skilled in that, you're using that skill, but some of us may know that thing that we've identified, and some of us might still be on the journey, but you leaped out in faith, you leaned in, you took a risk. And I think it's amazing just to continue to hear what the ripple effects of that are. Damon, so as you talk about interfacing with these individuals that you have painted, and how many of these murals have you guys done, and are they all individual? Can you maybe expand a little bit on kind of your portfolio of these murals you've done together then I'll lean into my next question.
Yeah, I think we've done over 10, maybe 15 together. I'm not sure. I think Brian counted the other day, but I don't remember what it was, because probably half of them are inside of a shelter, so the public will never see it. But yeah, they're not all, trying to remember if they're all portraits. Yeah, I think most of them are portraits of the people that are living in the shelters or in the housing. And it's kind of crazy. It's amazing. We love it. And like you said, it's seen, like Brian always says, it's seeing them through God's eyes and painting that version of them. Brian says it's painting the future them, the one that like, if they don't know God, if they're still homeless, if they're still experiencing addictions, it's painting the future them where all that's broken off of them, and they're living free and they're living in dignity. So we get to partner with Holy Spirit and see them through his eyes and paint that person of them on the wall. And we bring all the colors and all the colorfulness, and we just want to see hope and love in these places. And the coolest part is the ones that are indoors, like we said, will never be seen by public. It's just for them. These murals are just for them. And some of our best work that we've done is inside of a shelter that will never be seen except for the people that are living in there. And that it changes the atmosphere 100%. I remember one in particular in Anaheim that Brian and I walked into. It felt terrible in there. It felt terrible. Everything was beige. It felt like a jail. It just didn't feel good. And we went in there and we just brought like, again, partnering with the Holy Spirit, did some artwork, and Brian did his Photoshop amazingness and put it on the wall, and that room went from empty to full. The next time we went there, everyone was gathering in that room, and it was like laughter and smiles and art. It changes the atmosphere. It does, especially when Holy Spirit's behind it.
So cool. As you talk about change, I want both of you to answer these questions. You talk about interviewing individuals, and then, you know, it takes time for their murals to show up, and then people are now seeing these and benefiting from. What changes have you seen in the people as before they are maybe skeptical, or kind of what were individuals like when you first met them, and then once they've been painted, have you seen a change? We're talking about change, making a difference in homelessness. How have you seen that connection with the individuals you're connecting to? We'll start with Damon and then go back to Brian.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can see change happen while we're painting. If we're there for a week, you see it slowly happening. You see the change in individuals. I mean, I'm not talking about just one person, but everybody. You know, you see people start to open up to us, and people start to see themselves differently as they're going up on a wall 20 feet big. They see what we see. They don't see what they see what God sees. They see what they see themselves the way they've never seen themselves before. And that changes something inside of them. Some of them feel unworthy, and some of them are like, holy smokes, that's me. But the best part is just seeing hearts change, you know, because from people being against it, 100% against the mural, to at the end of the week, can you please put me on the wall? You know, and it's almost too late. We've had that before, but we've actually had it where it happened where so many people want to be on the wall, they had to add a wall so that we can put more people on the wall. And you just see, you see, like even after the artwork, because me and Brian, we still hang out with them, and you see their lives are being changed in the most amazing ways, you know, and it's just like it's the best thing, because we see it on their face while we're painting. It's happening right in front of us. We can watch it in 1 week, in 2 days. We can watch a person go from just depression to joy because of art, because of just God's presence around the art and around Brian and me. And it's just, you just see the atmosphere change. You see individuals change. But like I said, the best part is seeing their hearts change.
Yeah, I think it's so crazy. I think so much of art and the role of an artist is to operate like in the intangibles. You know, you go to a museum and you see a piece and you don't even understand why it's touching you, right? You might stand in front of something and feel all kind of emotions inside that nobody can see from the outside. And so I want to tell a quick story. A friend of mine, Doug, who's now living in the Yale Navigation Center, the new center here in Santa Ana, he came over to my house and he was describing what it was like when he first walked into the lunchroom a couple months back. And Damon and I did this super huge mural in there, super colorful, full of life. And his description of it was like, he said he gasps and it took his breath away. Like he immediately, he's like, immediately I knew you did it, because it was like colorful, it's in a shelter, so he understood all that. But he said like he had to take a step back and just take it all in. It flooded him with emotions. It gave him an experience of being in a museum and seeing a piece that touched his own heart. So I can't put on a spreadsheet what happened to Doug. Like there's no way for me to quantify it, other than to say that he talked about it for 20 minutes and how much he loves to go to the lunchroom. And it's amazing because when you look at the Yale shelter, they did an amazing job. So we're competing with, like, our art is competing with a phenomenal facility, right? So he was talking about how nice the facility was, and then he went to the lunchroom and like everything exploded for him, right? And so that's where I love to sort of play with life. I love to be in that space of like, yeah, like what happened within your heart. If you can describe it to me, great. If you can't, great, right? And I know now that every time Doug goes to eat lunch, he's impacted by what could have been a white room. It is now full of color, hope, and life, right? And so it's us serving our city the best way we can. And Doug, I believe, is on a road to change. Like he's having some huge breakthroughs in his life. He's looking for employment. I think he might have actually just got a job. I don't know. I don't think it's because of our mural, but I know that hope is rising in his heart as he sees things that impact his life on a daily basis.
Totally. I want both of you guys to hear you are not only celebrating people, you're bringing hope to them, but you're calling out I think they're now pillars and leaders without even realizing it in their community. Like
Totally.
somebody who, when you first met, it could have, like you said, depression, just feeling maybe worthless, maybe hopeless. There's just so many things that can be wrapped up in being in that place. You're calling them out, you're painting them in a way of they're on their best day, ways probably they haven't even seen in their own face, right? Joy in their own face. And you're doing that, but you're making such huge, again, ripple effects for all the residents that come in. Now they want to be like the people on the wall. They want to be a part of the stories. And so just another way that you guys answering the call and leaning in has made such a difference. I do want to make sure to remind, I got a little note to remind everybody on the call, if you guys have questions, be sure to send it to the Mercy House account on Zoom, and then we'll be sure to be storing those up for our Q&A time. So Mercy House team, I got you covered there. Now, Brian and Damon, I want to transition a little bit to what's happened for you. So you have been making an impact from the moments that you started doing this. Has there been change within you that's taken place? And can you maybe talk about where you were at initially with maybe with regards to homelessness or understanding homeless neighbors or the differences in stories, and how have you journeyed, while you've been painting, while you've journeyed through art pieces?
Go ahead,
You guys can decide who goes first. Yeah.
What's that? Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm still changing. I think I'm still growing and seeing our friends on the streets and just loving them and being comfortable with them but it's honestly it all started because of Brian. My whole family has changed because of Brian. And when I met him 5 years ago, of course, I mean, and it's in the Bible, to love them, and we did, but now we see them differently, and we have new eyes to see them and new hearts for them, and that's because of Brian. And I mean, my kids, I wish I was more like them. They want to feed everyone out there. They want to give everything that we have to them out there. Everyone that we drive by, you see them. Like anytime we drive by someone that's on the streets, you see my kids looking for something in the car to give them. And if the light changes, they get so bummed because we couldn't stop. And there's times where they make us turn around and come back. And that's like I'm still growing. I want to be like them, but just taking the time to stop and just hang out with them. If I'm skateboarding on the streets, if we're painting, if we're driving, and just to listen to it may sound crazy to some people, but to listen to the Holy Spirit as I'm driving by. Something says, hey, there's that person, and not to just keep going, but to stop and just go and spend 5 minutes with them, spend 10 minutes with them. If I'm skating, to stop and just talk to them. And it's even at those points when I'm skating and I stop and I talk to someone, in that 5 minutes, I've changed again, because they actually bring me joy and they bring me hope. Because when you speak to them, man, it's crazy to hear this, but they probably have better relationships with God than I do. And they have joy when they have nothing, and you talk to them and they're happy, and it's just like, man, this is crazy, and it's so I'm always changing. But I mean, the biggest change came from, like I said, just meeting Brian and seeing his heart and his view and just doing life with his family and growing together. But yeah, I'm still changing.
That's so good. Thank you, Damon. Wow. As Damon was speaking, I was just kind of reflecting on my own life. And, before doing all of this, I have a background in design. I used to be a car designer for a while. And I think it was ingrained in me to never fail. So I would work really hard at my job to make sure my director liked my work and all these things. And as I was sort of positioned in my city by the Lord to love maybe the hardest people to love, my rate of failure kept getting higher and higher. I've failed in every single relationship of everyone that I've painted. I've had to apologize to more people than you can imagine, right? And so day by day, year by year, I've been failing my way into healthy relationships and learning a lot of things about myself. I've learned how sneaky judgment can be. It's like a little seed, and it's there. And being in relationship with my friends in Santa Ana has helped me sort of uncover things within myself that I'm still dealing with today. And I feel like in so many ways I've been discipled by the very movement that I'm creating, right? And so like you would think that I'd be the master of this movement, but it's completely the opposite. I've been the biggest failure over and over and over again. And each time I feel like I wouldn't even quantify it as failure, it's just learning experiences, right? And so I feel like the more I learn, the more I grow in my capacity to love. And so change for me has been, it's been difficult. Like you have to be like willing to fail and make mistakes and take risks. Like I've talked to some people that were probably dangerous and I shouldn't have talked to. Like I've taken so many uncalculated risks that have led to really fun things in my life, that this population of people have helped me push past every wall or barrier of fear. And so like, I was scared to talk to Matt the first time. I was scared to talk to the second person. I was scared to talk to the third person. I was scared over and over and over again. The Faces of Santa Ana has helped me realize that barriers of fear are meant for us to break through. And I even find myself today, like as a business person now, breaking past new barriers, but using the thinking that I've learned from my friends experiencing homelessness. So I feel like I owe them everything, right? Because they've helped me become who I am today.
I love that. It's what both of you guys have talked about is you both, in moments when it feels like you should be the teacher, you constantly are the student, right? Damon, you're the student of your kids. You want to model the way that they just so openly love. Brian, you want to talk about how you're constantly learning from those that you're serving. And so I think that's such a huge thing to take away too, for all of us, that where we want to make a difference, we've got to be willing to be a student, and we've got to be willing to not only lean in and listen, but also to detangle ways we think about the people that we're trying to serve, right? So homelessness, domestic violence, literally any cause or anyone, or even just an individual you're trying to connect with, we've got to be willing to sometimes take apart how we think about someone or a group of people and be willing to rebuild it with a new frame of mind. And I think you guys have done that. And I know you both have talked about your faith in this. How, and maybe if you've already mentioned it, you could repeat it or you can reference what you talked about. But let's talk about how your faith plays into this. We may have some people on the call or watching this recording that do connect to a certain faith, or they feel led because of their faith. And so I think that could be really helpful and inspiring to those wanting to take a step out. So you guys can decide who goes first.
I can go first. I mean, my faith plays a role in every part of my life. And if it wasn't for my faith, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And it's I try to take every thought captive that goes on in my head and ask Holy Spirit, what do you want to do right now? Ask Father God, what are we doing today? Ask Jesus, help me today. You know, help me see these people the way you do. God, what are you saying about them so I can go speak to them? Or God, what do you want to paint today so that it's your painting, not mine, so that the city and can feel this, and it's not just a wall, it's not just a painting, that it's something from you to them. So my faith has everything to do with every little part of my life, even skateboarding, graffiti, choppers, lowriders, my family, everything that I do brings glory to God. And it's because I give it to him first. If I'm going to go skating, I'm skating for his glory, because I'm going to go to this park and I want people to feel loved around me. I want people to see a light around me. And every time I go skateboarding, that's what I pray. If I'm with friends, I'm with myself, I just sit there, and before I get out of my car, and I just say, God, let me be a light to these kids. Let me be a light to these kids. Let them feel loved. Even if I don't get to speak to them, let them feel loved around me, because I'm going to see them over and over again. And they feel love over and over again without me saying a word. And then a lot of times they come and ask me, hey, what, like there's something different about you. And I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying that, but It happens all the time. People come to me and ask me about God because of what they feel around me. Without me saying a word, I'm out there preaching the gospel. I'm out there talking about my faith without even saying a word most of the times. And then a lot of times they come and say, hey, there's something about you that for some reason when I'm next to you, that's the only time I feel peace or hope. And then I get to share God with them because of that, you know? And so faith in my artwork, faith in loving people, I couldn't do anything without my faith in God. So he gets everything, and he gets everything first, and he gets everything because he is everything to me. And I'm so just in love with him, and he's so in love with me. And I'm so lucky to have God. And it's just, and just to be able to grow in him daily and to learn who I am in him daily. And if I didn't know who I was in Christ, then I would just be a failure out there. But when you know who you are in Christ, there's victory in your paintings and your skateboarding and everything that you do. And this is just me, skateboarding, painting, lowriders, whatever you guys do that are watching this, whoever's going to hear this, that's how you use your gift to love these people. If it's photography, you take pictures. If it's cooking, you cook for them. If it's just whatever it is that you love to do. I love skateboarding. I love art. So I get to use that to love people. You love something else. So use that to love these people that, like Brian said, that are hard to love sometimes. But when it's done through love, it breaks all those barriers. And like you said, also, you got to take the risk, and the risk is scary at times. But when you do overcome that fear and you take the risk to go love someone, to see what happens within 5 minutes, man, you would want to do it every day of your life. You want to do it all day. And it's still scary. It's still scary. Brian and I have been doing it for years, and it's still scary. If God says, hey, go love that person, go talk to that person, go pray for that person. And I'm just like, that person? Like, that, for real, God? Like, oh gosh, there's so much in me that's fighting against that. And when you do take the risk and you go love these people and you see their hearts change within 5 minutes, it's just like, it's the best thing. So like, I just love to love people, and faith is everything to me.
How do I go after that, dude?
Good luck, Brian.
You should have went first, dude.
I'm praying right now, Holy Spirit, help me. So for me, everything shifted for me when I began to realize that Jesus came to leave and establish for us a kingdom here on earth.
Wow,
and
yeah.
I started to understand this idea that like Jesus is way more than like a religious figure. It's way more than me dying and going to heaven. That Jesus was intentionally trying to establish the culture of heaven here on earth, right? And so when I wake up in the morning, when I look at myself, I'm understanding that yes, I'm on planet Earth, but my citizenship is in heaven. My citizenship is from a different kingdom, so to speak. And so that has allowed me, knowing that about myself, knowing who I am, has allowed me to step out and talk to Matthew for the first time. Knowing who I am and knowing who I am in his kingdom has allowed me to quit my dream job as a car designer, the job I worked for my whole entire life, that gave my blood, sweat, and tears to achieve. And because I'm in the kingdom and I'm able to hear the voice of the king, I can say, yes, I can leave that behind because I know there's something greater. Knowing who I am in the kingdom of God has allowed me to quit working as a pastor in the middle of COVID, right? I was pastoring at Vineyard Anaheim Church. The world was in shambles. Unemployment was like through the roof. Everything was crazy. And I felt like the Lord said, I need you to quit. I need you to be a full-time artist. So understanding my relationship with Jesus, learning to hear his voice, knowing that he loves me, knowing that he has like a specific plan to my life, has given me the authority and the ability to make these decisions that don't make any sense to the world. They didn't make any sense to my employees. They didn't make any sense to some people in the church. They don't make sense when, like, the life of following Jesus for me doesn't make sense to normal people, right? And so I love him for that. I love that I can feel connected to who I believe is like the author of this all, right? And he's giving me the sort of the incentive, the empowerment by his spirit to grow every day, to learn every day, to fail every day, to risk every day, to love every day, to create and play every day. I've learned that Jesus is incredibly fun. Like, he wants to make our life feel like an adventure. And so I wake up every day, and I'm just wondering what this adventure would bring today. And I've had the most fun in my entire life for the last 6 years of following Jesus than I did trying to do everything before that on my own. And so I'm so grateful for him. I'm so grateful for what he came to leave us here to walk out, which is like his kingdom mandate of like bringing the culture of heaven here to earth. And there's no greater joy. There's nothing that will ever steal the joy he's put in my heart to do those things with him. And so, I don't know.
I love it. No, that was awesome. To hear both of your hearts behind why you do what you do. I mean, to feel invigorated every day and knowing that your purpose and your calling is huge. And so thank you for sharing that with us. And for those, another thing I wanted to point out about the uniqueness of what you do is, Brian, specifically with your story, you started off doing something on your own. Like I see something, I needed to make a change. And then you began to move towards coordinating with others, right? Working together. Your murals are now a part of a bigger story, and you're working together. And I think that's, as we're all on this call and we're thinking, we're listening and we're leaning because we're trying to figure out what is it that I could do. And I would challenge everyone watching this to think, what am I good at? What do I like to do? How have I been uniquely designed to be able to, what can I offer to the world? And I bet you there's anything that you can do, anything that you can bring can be used to make a difference. And Brian, Faces of Santa Ana, there's an art component, but then it leads to not only emotional, spiritual impact and mental impact, but it also leads to tangible impact. And I know that as a part of this campaign, Help Them Home, and this Zoomcast we're doing, we're trying to figure out how can we all link arms? How can we uniquely work together to use what we have and bring it to the table to make a difference? And so no one skill set or passion is better or worse than the other. They all work together so well. And just the ways that Brian and Damon's skill sets have been interwoven to things that are very tangible, like housing. But it also is, like you're saying, non-tangible: dignity, hope, confidence, self-esteem. And so if you hear anything today, hear that you can take an assessment of what you have to bring to the table, and don't be worried about or afraid to ask questions of how that can be used. I know Jacob's going to talk in a second about what the opportunities and the needs are, but I heard someone say, if there's no spot in the org chart, you make it. You go, do you need this thing? Okay, if it's not on the list, let me just tell you, here's what I'm good at. Can you use that at all? And I promise you, people that are working with individuals like Jacob and across so many organizations throughout our communities, they know faces, they know stories, and they know unique creative ways that skill set can be used to make a difference and be worked together. Just again, before we hand it off to Jacob, in my unique role, I don't work at a homeless service organization, and I don't paint, but I get to work at a part of a church and get to help connect people to causes that they care about, and to be able to help people identify what they want to do and then facilitate conversations and help provide support. And so we've had people that have given haircuts, people that have done a bike repair workshop, people that have wanted to do life coaching, people that want to cook meals or teach skill sets like cooking. And so if you think about who you are on your best day, you have a whole team of people behind you that has supported you to feel the best on your best day. And you can be some of those people for those that maybe you never meet, or those that you get to sit down and have a conversation with, just like Brian and Damon have. So I'm encouraged by the conversation today. I've learned a bunch. Thank you, Damon and Brian, for just taking the time and sharing your heart. And I'm going to toss it to Jacob.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Erica, Brian, and Damon. I have a Pentecostal background, and I was still getting the chills out here. So, I know you guys are preaching and not even meaning to. I see my wife on the call. She's probably chuckling to herself because, well, inside joke. Anyways, again, thank you guys so much for sharing about that. I wanted to transition to a couple different things. I want to first do a quick Q&A. I think that conversation brings up a lot of things that probably have prompted us to say, oh, well, what about this? What about this? And so we'll get into that. And then just to carry on with what Erica said, and really what Damon and Brian were saying the whole time is, we all have a way that we can help support ending homelessness. And in particular, we obviously have this big campaign coming up, Help Them Home. So after our Q&A portion, stick around and I can tell you about just a couple of different ways that you can get involved with literally starting to end homelessness today. So let's go through the questions. So we had a number of questions already come in, so please feel free. It's not too late to drop another question in the chat. Just message the Mercy House participant and we can get your question in here. So the first one I wanted to go with was, okay, I feel like I gotta go this one first, and understand that I have a preference and I have a bias because I'm a former case manager at the Orchard. And a quick little side note, I was actually on site when Brian and Damon actually painted the first mural, the first Face of Santa Ana mural. And so I am very, very fortunate to have seen that go up and see them working late at night and with the projector and all that paint. So I feel really blessed to have been part of that. And a number of the faces that are still on that mural were clients of mine, people that I'd worked with really closely. And so all of this set up to say, if you guys have a favorite mural that you painted, don't feel like you have to say the Orchard, that's mine. But if you all have a favorite mural, what would you say it would be and why?
Damon, you can go first.
Yeah, I think it probably is the Orchard for me, because that not only just the first one that Brian brought me in for, but it was the one where that's when my life changed. That's when my dreams changed. My dreams got bigger after that mural, and my family's future changed after that mural. Because at that time, just like Brian said, he quit his job. At that time, that's when God told me to quit my job and do this full time. And so that one, that's when everything changed for me and my family. And not only was it just so much fun to work on and paint and fall in love with the people, but it helped something inside of me see who I am and what I'm capable of, and to take that and run with it. And that one was amazing. But the good part I don't know, just every mural that Brian and I get to do together, we have to do something different. It can't be the same, something that challenges us, that makes us be like, man, can we do that? Can we do that? And then we end up doing it, and kind of like every time we finish a mural, we step back and we're just like, how the heck did we do that? And we're just amazed at just what God does through our hands. And it's every time we look at them, they're all our favorites, but that one right there, the Orchard, changed mine and my family's life. So that's got to be my favorite one.
So I would echo that just because it's the first one, but just for the sake of hearing about other murals, I'll do my second favorite. Second favorite for me is a mural we did on Broadway in Santa Ana. It's called the Unity Wall, and it says unity through the bond of peace. It's a 240-foot wall, and it has faces of just heroes of our culture. And that one is my favorite, mainly because of the reaction of the people in the city. Mm-hmm. So it's on a school, it's not in a shelter or anything like that. But as we were painting it, people were literally driving into the parking lot, getting out of their cars and crying, right? And they're like, I can't believe that something this beautiful is on the block that I grew up in. We had multiple people get out of their cars just full of emotions. And so for us, as we're up on this lift and we're praying and we're believing that everything that we do is worship, we believe in that moment, like our spray cans are instruments of worship, to see people being drawn to the wall, getting out of their car with their families and kids emotional. It just feels like we're doing the right thing for the city. And it's very hard work. It's hard on your body, your back, your legs, your arms, but it's like we're giving of ourselves literally to the city. And so I'd say that's our number two.
I love that. I love that this is such a transformational thing that y'all are doing for yourselves, for the the people whose faces you're painting, and also for the community who gets to see it. Obviously, again, I'm biased towards the orchard, but the orchard is just really quick about it. Erica already mentioned that's a 71 unit permanent supportive housing complex that we operate, but people can see it from 4th Street or 1st Street, and all the businesses around always talk about it. If I mention that, oh yeah, the orchard, it's our one of our sites, people are always like, oh, I've seen the mural there. And so I know that it really does touch everyone. And so again, I'm so fortunate to have had my little portion in being involved with seeing that come up and everything. I kind of want to pivot here to another question that we got. And this one, it's a little bit longer, but I really felt compelled to read it because I think that this is a question that I really wanted to answer in the last installment. And I didn't really get around to it. And I think that it's such a good question. So bear with me, I read it. We have a lady on the street in Reno Valley that we talk to regularly. We give her bags of food and stuff that distributes them to her friends on the streets. I so much want to hear her story, but do not want to offend her. She's articulate, friendly, and would be great to talk to. Any ideas on how to start a conversation without saying the wrong things? Thank you for whoever sent that question in. But I really, one more preface before this. I think that's a question that all of us have. We see someone who's maybe on the street and look like they could be homeless or without housing. And we're like, well, how do I engage with them? How do I start that conversation? And I know from myself, and like I shared in the last installment again, that you go for it and you hope that you don't say anything that offends anyone. But Brian and Damon and Erica, please jump in if you've had this experience as well. Hearing from the experts, how do you guys initiate a conversation with someone that you would love to just connect with and really show love to?
Brian's laughing because I think he's learned. I feel like I can't wait to hear what Brian has to say.
Yeah, like I said, I've failed my way to success on this one. But no, ultimately, and I'm going to use the exact example you just gave. I'm going to repeat the question with the question. But I always tell people when they ask me this question, I always tell them, why don't you say that? And so here's what the example would be. Hey, I know we've been in contact with you for a couple of the weeks, but if I'm completely honest, I've been feeling like I should know your story. I don't know how to ask you. I'm really cautious. I don't want to offend you. And I just want to ask you, would it be okay if we just talk and discuss your story? And so that is, when you approach someone like that, there's no playbook. It's vulnerable. It's real. It's authentic. It's true. You're telling them how you feel. I'm so afraid to offend you. I don't know how to start the conversation. I apologize even if this question has offended you, but I'm really feeling this yearning in my heart to know more about you. And so those questions that I think are coming up as fear and blocking you from ever asking the questions, it's so important to turn those fear moments into an opportunity and just go in vulnerably. The more vulnerable we can be as friends and family and neighbors, I think the better for everybody. So that's how I approach people. And I just get to verbalize all the junk that's going on in my head, keeping me from approaching them. And so that's always my advice. Say the thing that you just wrote in the question. Right? And usually it goes pretty well because all the walls are torn down. They see you're vulnerable. They see you're open. And so it invites people in for a conversation. That might be the wrong answer, but that's how I do it.
No, I think that's a great answer. And I think it also, not only does it break the walls down, but it shows that we don't have it all together. We don't know, we don't have it all together. We're trying to navigate relationships too. And I think like you're saying, that vulnerability can be a bridge building thing. If you allow yourself to show your weaknesses and that you're unsure and you want to respect them, it communicates that you're doing your best to respect and honor. And, I think that's a great answer.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. And I just, being someone who's fumbled through those conversations myself, I know that it's okay to go into that conversation and be like, oh man, that was awkward. Why did I say that? Next time you won't do that, and it's terrible. But there's really no other way to get good at something. So I want to have time to get to this, my last little a bit about Help Them Home. So I'm going to do one more question, and hopefully we can jam through it. And it's about passion. So maybe just really briefly in a handful of words, Ryan, Damon, Erica too. Can you tell us real quickly What started your passion for those who are unhoused, and what would your recommendation be to people who want to catch that passion and really get it? Erica, you can start first, because I just looked at you first.
Okay, great. I feel like I play kind of a different role. I know that I love and value being a connector, and I really love and value helping people figure out what their thing is and finding places that they can utilize it. And so I think I've learned that after some practice. Like sometimes you just kind of try new things, or you find yourself, I found myself in situations, especially with the job that I have now, but I know that I come alive after conversations where we can get so much more done together, and we can get so much more done when we identify what unique piece we're going to bring to the table and how it fits. And I think that would be the thing. When you find your passion, it comes easy and you come alive. And so it could be, art, it could be you're really good in the business world, it could be relational. I think mine's again, maybe it's not the best example, but I also think it's so needed for us to serve the homeless community. We can't work in silos. We can't avoid working together. And so I like to try to be the glue in that, because I just think from my perspective, it feels like it's going to make a really big, like a large impact in a different way. So I don't know, that's what I get excited about. And yeah, I'd be happy to help anybody who's interested in talking about that.
Awesome. David?
Yeah, I think that my passion grows every time I see the face of the people that we're painting. And I mean, that's what caused me, like Brian left his dream job, that's what caused me to leave my dream job. As just one of the persons at the orchard, I knew in the future I was going to leave this company to pursue art one day, but I didn't know when. But after the orchard, there was this one lady, and just talking with her and seeing her face, I went back to my work the next day, my normal job, which was my dream job. I had a wood shop, an art studio, a metal shop, skateboarding, graffiti, everything that I loved. That's what I did for work every day, and I loved my job. And it was just a fun job. I could still be there if it wasn't for God. But after seeing this lady's reaction and just her heart and just everything, I went into work the next day and I said, I can't do this anymore. Like my passion, my dreams were upgraded, and this was my old dream. And I just tasted what God was doing in loving people. And just that's the passion of loving people and seeing what love does. It changed everything for me. So just loving the one changed my life, and to where I got to just be free.
That's so good. And Brian?
Hey, so Damon just said love does, like by an accident, but you should check out that book. It'll definitely help you with passion. I think for me, passion is connected to your gifting, or like your purpose, or I think your gifting can be described as the thing that you do to the best of your ability with the least amount of effort. And so for me, that's like drawing. Like it came natural to me. I was probably born with that inside of my soul somewhere. And so if you can connect, I think if I was forced to do spreadsheets in Excel all day, I couldn't possibly be passionate about what I'm doing. And passion is the very fuel that gets you through the hard moments. So passion gets you through the difficult relationships. Passion gets you past the 15 hours on a lift painting all night. Passion is the thing that takes your gift and makes it grow in the earth. So it's important to identify that area of you. Ours is very obvious. Painting is a very visual gift. Erica's is not. Erica's is like this intangible glue thing that she's just connecting people. But that's the same thing. They're both, probably does that really well with least amount of effort, because it's who she is, right? So identify that thing within you and don't stress over it. It might actually be something that you loved to do when you were 3, 4, and 5 years old. And that's the purest version of yourself oftentimes. And so maybe to have a think back, maybe ask some old relatives or brother and sister, what did I used to do when I was little? And I think the Lord is always into like a rediscovery of who we are. I think so much in this life is about you introducing yourself to you, right? And so find that thing that's you and do it for other people.
I have something to add too, because I think the examples of Brian and Damon, they quit their job and I'm doing it in my job, but I have a friend who is passionate about people, but he still needs to pay the bills. So it doesn't mean you have to leave your job. Sometimes
Yeah.
it means, you feel a nudge and you feel like that makes the most sense. God's calling you, or you feel like that's the right thing, but you can do your passion in your current workplace. You can do your passion outside of the time you're at your current workplace with your family. So I just want to add that piece, because it doesn't mean you're less passionate if your job doesn't connect to your passion. But this is an amazing example of two people that have taken it by the horns and run after it.
That's really good, and thank you guys so much for doing that. We have like 2 minutes, so I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible. And just to loop back to one thing that Brian said, you don't have to quit your job, and like what Erica said, Brian's thing may not be spreadsheets, but I think we have at least 1 or 2 CPAs on the call, and I would argue they do like spreadsheets, and
Yes.
that can be what you do to help end homelessness. So anyways, just wanted to say that quick thing, and then let everyone know that, again, with regards to what you can do next. Obviously, there's a ton of opportunities. Mercy House is opening up our volunteer opportunities here pretty soon, and we have a number of ways you can donate with in-kind donations and that kind of thing. But really, I wanted to spend 30 seconds here to tell you about our Help Them Home campaign. We're doing this big campaign with 18 other nonprofits, and I see at least 2 other nonprofits that are joining us on April 28th. I think Pathways of Hope and CityNet are both here. And so we're really excited to be collaboratively raising all this money to end homelessness. I think between the 18 organizations, we're going to raise $1 million. So fingers crossed, we'll get there. But Mercy House, we're trying to raise $50,000, and that $50,000 can go a long way to helping keep people in housing, especially during these times of uncertainty with all unemployment and that sort of thing. But it'll also go to making sure that we have meals in our shelters, and it'll go to helping people get bus passes and jobs for interviews, and really everything in between. So we're really excited, and we think that we can do it. And here's how you can help. Obviously, April 28th, we'd love if you can throw a couple dollars our way. But even more importantly than that, we'd love for you to check out the link that we're going to send in the recap email to see if you can make a peer-to-peer page and actually tell your friends in your network about what work that we're doing. And so not everyone has to have the job that Erica has, where her entire job is connecting people to resources and finding out who makes the most sense to partner with this person and that kind of thing. But you all can do it in your own small, tangible way, whether you have Facebook or email, or whether you just want to text a couple people and say, hey, check out this campaign. I think they're doing a lot of good work. So again, we'll be doing a big email recap to everyone, and I really want to honor everyone's time and end this. So please keep an eye out for that email. And in that email, check out to hear next week when we come back and we do this again at 10 o'clock next week. We'll be able to have more of these conversations and see how else we're getting plugged into in homelessness. So again, thank you everyone for joining this call, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you next week. Bye all.